Hi, I'm Kat.
And I'm Gabe.
And we're
the Ghouls Next Door. Yeah, that's us. Alright, so we're the Ghouls Next Door. And this is episode 15.
Shit.
So, in every third episode, it's a lot of episodes. We've done a lot. It's been
It's news.
It's more than a hand. It's got three hands now. 3 hands
It's
full.
3 fucking hands. We're almost on four hands. That's numbers.
Yes. I'm glad you learned how to count in the time of this podcast. Yes. So, for every third episode, we always have guests. And we have 2 guests. We've bumped it up. We're getting popular now. We've somehow tricked more people to come in. Yeah,
our basement's getting crowded.
It's getting a little crowded. Jeff loves the attention down there, though. He's like, more friends in our basement. If you guys don't know, we've kidnapped you essentially, and now you're here forever.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't really have a say, so sorry.
Worn more comfortable shoes if I'd have known.
Yeah, yeah.
You're here.
I wondered what those chains were.
Yeah.
You know what that like Greek mythology where it's like you're in Hades and then he's like, "Oh, you ate the pomegranate, so now you have to be down here." It's just like as soon as you cross the threshold, we owned your souls. So
it's a part of the aesthetic.
You should have read the fine print. Yeah.
Me neither.
We're not as fancy as Hades.
We
have like a whole
Offer
house.
some matzah. That's all.
Right. Oh, there it is.
There's our soul.
There it is.
The haunting has started. So we
There's
are
our soul and 7 years bad luck all in one damn fucking show.
Welcome to this haunted podcast. Not only do we talk about haunted things, we make you haunted. And we have brought 2 lovely guests today who have their own podcast, the Micheaux Mission. So we're joined by Len.
Hey, what's up? Holla at your boy. This is Len, a.k.a. the Bat Tribble of the Micheaux Mission.
And Vince.
Hey, this is Vince, also of the Micheaux Mission, and I don't have real snappy intros like Lynn.
It's always a lot of pressure.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And charm the listeners.
All right, Lynn makes kisses. Maybe I'll go, ha, 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 ha.
Sounds good.
I liked it.
You could just scream like
Right,
Dr.
right,
Black.
right. Right.
You scream like
Right.
Dr. Black. Money.
So we are the horror-themed podcast. We talk all things horror, dive into our phobias and fears, and get down to the bottom of why we're afraid of things. More importantly, our topic today is black horror films.
Okay.
All right.
Are you scared of black horror films?
It depends on the film, and it depends on what they're trying to teach me in these black horror films.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. And you see,
Right.
and we wanted to bring in our guest-perts in that Micheaux Mission is about you guys watching every black film.
Yes.
Yes.
It's 2 men, 1 podcast. Every black film ever made. Every week we
Excellent.
review a different black film.
That's right.
All right, well, just question right here at the top. What constitutes a black film?
That's interesting. You should ask.
Yes, it is.
Because, like, definition number 1 for me, because if you look it up in, like, I guess dictionary.com, like, the first definition to me would be a film.
Or just like a regular dictionary.
Like with the books. Do you know they have books?
Yes. Yes, I guess old school. Do people even have dictionaries anymore?
I mean, I do.
I think there's one on the
Okay,
shelf
but
somewhere.
like, English,
I have like a pocket. I also have like a pocket watch.
dictionary.com, the number 1 definition, or my number 1 definition of a black film would be a film that has a cast that is predominantly people of color, or I shouldn't say people of color, but people from the African diaspora. That's a way of putting it.
Oh, okay. All
You know
right.
what I mean? So that's would be the number 1 definition of it. And number 2 would be maybe a film that offers some type of commentary in some way, shape, or form, either in front of the camera or behind the camera, on the African or the black experience here on Earth. That would be my definition. But Vince has probably a different definition.
My definition would be if you switch out one of the cast members, will it change the film entirely? Okay. Like, I think that also aligns with Lynn's definition as well. But
Well, I don't know, because you said if you switch out one of the cast members. So
Is it like a cast member of color? Like if they
right.
took out one
If
of
you
them?
switched out the black cast member or members if it becomes a totally different movie. That's my go-to for it being a black film.
Okay. See, we don't agree.
That's
We don't.
fine. That's fine.
Do not agree.
It's an
It gives us
ongoing
more
conversation.
options. Yeah,
Yes.
it gives us more options for what we would say is a black film because
Right.
we have options. Like, for example, here's a question for you guys because it is a question because we're talking about black horror films, and so something that comes up often is Night of the Living Dead.
Right.
Which so
Okay.
you have George A. Romero who has said a lot of times that he did not intend it to be race. Like
Right.
he was
Right.
like, it's not about race.
That's
It
what-
just so happened that I cast this guy. I think he's a great actor. And then when you're looking at it, it's like you can't help but
You see
see
it.
the race,
Right.
and that
Especially
it is
when you get to the
important.
last scene. I mean, are we spoiled?
Yeah. Oh, did
Do
you
we
just say-
assume that people have seen Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah, and we usually just say spoiler and then immediately say the sentence.
Right. So
That's how we
spoiler,
go.
when he's killed by the policeman
Exactly.
at the end, and the implication is they just killed a black guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he like lived through the zombies, but then the real life horror
Mm-hmm.
is the police.
Yeah. He lived through the zombies and a house full of like frantic white people.
Right.
And
right.
then somehow managed to make it to the next day. He made it through the night of the living dead, and only to get shot by the police.
Right.
See, but that's George Romero without even being cognizant of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having the privilege of being able to see that movie through a totally different lens and not even see the racial implications of it, which screams that it's a black film.
I actually don't believe him when he says that.
You know?
Yeah,
Like, this
I
is
think
probably
he's
a
just
good
trying to
place to
cover
say.
his
Like,
tracks.
I've never believed him when he said that
Why don't you believe him?
because it doesn't make sense.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Because the white guy getting shot by the police doesn't have the power that has. Like, I always feel like he made this commentary and then he punked out.
I don't know, man. You say that, but if that movie was made in 1980, I'd ride with you. But it wasn't.
That's my point. That's actually my point.
It's an older film.
Because it was made when it was made, that would have been so controversial that he said, "Oh, I didn't mean that at all." Like, you look at the rest of his work. Like, you look at the what is it? The Dead. What are we calling it? The Day of the Dead. Like, what do you call
he
it?
has got Day of the Dead, Die of the Dead.
right.
This is whole dead.
And they're so overtly political, and they're so social. You know, the commentary is so there. Like, this thing is just an oopsie daisy moment for him.
I don't know, man. I think that at that time, the privilege was just so baked into a lot of people,
Right.
especially him. You got to remember, he was, you know, he wasn't like some teenager at that time.
No.
You know, so I believe him. I think that now, yes, he sees it, but I think that at the time, I honestly don't think he saw it.
Well, I have example. So there are two films that I can think of that have a similar ending to that. One in which a white character dies, and one in which a black character dies, or
Okay.
could die.
Right.
Could die. Ooh,
Yes.
interesting.
So the first one with the white character is Cabin Fever, Eli Roth's kind of gory film.
Right,
where
right.
she does the shaving thing. It's like super
Right.
disgusting. Well, the entire time it was the water because there was like the body in the
Right.
spoilers. People, it's as old as hell. It's in the quarry, and so everyone's infected. But the one guy has hidden away and has been drinking alcohol the entire weekend, and he hides
Right.
away in a cave,
Right.
or like this cavern of some sort. And at the end, all his friends are dead. They died gory deaths. They're disgusting. And he comes out and he's all fine, and he gets shot down by the police. And it is like, oh, he finally made it, but he was so in the background, like you forgot he existed for one, because he was just like hidden away the entire time. But like, it's not as impactful. It was like, oh, that sucks because he was alive, but you forgot even that he was alive.
Right.
Whereas the next one, which I feel like really has admittedly been greatly affected by Night of the Living Dead, would be Get Out.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so you have that end scene. It's exactly the same. And I was just telling Kat about it. I was like, it's such a crazy scene and way more impactful than Night of the Living Dead in that, you know, he's finally making it to the end, and then everyone sees that cop car pull up. And when you're in the
Right.
theater, you hear everyone's like intake
Yes.
a breath, and it's stress, and you're like, God damn it, like, no, are you fucking kidding me? He
Yep.
got all the way due here, and you know this is the end, and then the relief that it was his friend. But you
Right.
think about any other film where there's the white cast, if they saw that cop car,
Right.
you would have been like, oh, thank God, the
Yes.
cops
Thank
are
God it's the
here.
police.
Yay,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
let's save the day. And
Yes.
it's just that same, like, it's just that Ben from Night of the Living Dead didn't have the wherewithal to even be afraid of
Right.
it at the time. Like, it's just so consumed with this, like, oh, I'm going to live, and then just shot right between the eyes. And then the credit scene, like that, is just him chained and dragged and then thrown into the pyre with all the rest of them.
Yeah.
It seemed like he thought he was going to live. He looked like he was like, oh, what's
He didn't
out there?
stand a
He
chance.
stood in the window, but he didn't like call out, because I feel like he felt like, oh shit, this is not good. Like, I didn't think he thought he was going to be okay. Or at least us watching now, I didn't think he was going to be okay.
Right.
I didn't even see the movie before, and we both were like, nah.
It's been so
he's
long.
He's going
since-
to die now. Like,
Right.
This is not a good thing.
It's been so long since I've seen it, so I can't 100% picture his face
Right.
in there. But I just do remember, you know, when you see that, you're like, ha!
Oh.
Yeah. Because you see them shooting down, and you're like, you're not even going to, like, give it a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't ever get out of the house.
Nope.
They just from through, they're like, that we're going to kill it.
Yeah.
And he just survived that entire night.
Yeah.
Of these awful people.
Yes, but
slapping
he
down
is-
all the white people.
But he is also black, which makes him the usual suspect.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which, so that brought me into that kind of trope of like the black character always dies first.
Right.
Or if generally that's not exactly true anymore, but more like that they usually don't last the entire
right,
film.
They may
Right,
not die
right.
first.
Right, they're
but
not gonna-
They don't
Yeah.
die last.
Right.
Yes. The majority of the characters, if they're African American or any, like they can even be European and it's black, they're like, you're here, you're dead.
Yes.
Yes,
Every
you
single
are
time.
fodder.
Yes.
That's exactly what you are.
Yes.
You know, which is what made one of Vince's favorite movies, Deep Blue Sea, that much more amazing.
Yes.
Because you had Samuel Jackson and LL Cool J,
Right.
both kind of like top tier stars. So he was like, whoa,
Yeah.
somebody, which one is getting off this island?
Well, you know, initially they were going to kill LL.
Right.
Right, but then the test audiences liked him so much, they went back and reshot it.
Yes, and they came up with that he was going to punch his way to freedom out of the shark's mouth.
I'm pretty sure that's the way it worked.
That's how
I'm
he did it.
pretty sure that's how Harriet Tubman
Yeah.
got away from sharks.
And I was looking, I
I feel like I read that somewhere.
all the
Like I punched
the
1,000
railroad.
sharks, and I could have punched 1,000
1,000 more.
if they only knew they were sharks. I'm pretty sure that's the way that quote goes.
Well, I did notice, I was looking up like this list, and it was like, here's 50 black films, and not like horror films with black characters, and do they, like, are they first to die? Do they die?
Okay.
Ultimately.
Okay.
And so a lot of it was like they didn't all die first. It was like maybe 10%, but majority of them did die.
They died.
Yes.
There'd be
Right.
one
Yes.
or two that would live, or if you had 3 like black stars, you'd have 2 that died. like
Yeah.
like you have 1. But I did notice that if LL Cool J is in a horror film, he lives.
Yes.
There was like 3,
Might
and
be
I
in
was
his
like, you can't
contract.
die him. You can't.
You can't kill LL.
Yeah.
Look, LL is like, what do you always say people are? He's an American treasure.
He's an American treasure.
And you cannot kill
Can't kill an American treasure.
treasure.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
He
that's the
belongs
rule.
to all of us. It's weird when you say that about a black person, though.
Oh, well,
See, now I brought the room down.
yeah, so the black character is dying first, and I even was like looking into I was like, okay, well, we watch horror films, and so I was like, and we've watched quite a few for this podcast, so I was like,
Right.
when have we seen a black character? And so
Okay.
I wrote them down. I was like,
Oh,
let's
interesting.
find out. Let's see
Let's
what
hear
happens.
it.
So our first episode, Clowns, we watched it. So we watched the old and the new one.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
have Mike, who like brings them all together. He's the academic. In the old one, his race is not touched upon.
Right.
You know, in the newer one, it's very much in there. So they talk
Yes.
about the burning of the club where
Right.
his parents lived and how they have all the slurs and all the racism in your face, which is also what the book is. Like the book
yeah.
talks a lot about homophobia and about racism and just
Oh,
everything
okay.
that's wrong with people. So it was very relevant in that, but only in the newer one.
Right.
Definitely grazed over in the first one. We were talking about Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
So
yeah,
in
of
the
course.
original, you have a black man who survives. Again, trend for
Right.
Romero there. But in the newer one, you have Mekhi Phifer, who is portrayed as like that, like the thug who like has his like Hispanic wife,
Yeah.
And then she has the zombie baby, and he tries to save her.
Really?
Shot.
I didn't see the newer one. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh,
Yes.
it's very entertaining.
Is that the one Ving Rhames?
Yes.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, it's not, it's not bad.
Yeah. And so, but he lives. His character lives, but he's a cop.
Is that the one that, so they're in the mall?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
I did see that.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like Mekhi Phifer's character dies, but he's the thug, and he's like, he's got the gun already, and he's
Of
like
course.
kind of cast himself aside. And then you have Ving Rhames, who lives,
Right.
who's a cop, and
Right.
he's like this upstanding citizen, and he also is like he's like a hero in his own right in that film.
Yes.
We did video games. So there was a kind of hokey video game called Until Dawn that we did with Jeff, where you have like a cast of characters that are like the cliche like group of teens.
Yes, of course.
So one of them was their like football player named Matt. But the point of the game is like you want to keep everyone alive.
Okay.
And so when I played, me and Kat played, and when Jeff played, neither one of us could keep him alive. And we did different.
Yeah, and he's like the only black character in the game.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to save him.
Yeah.
And I want to know if there is a way, like YouTube it or
yeah,
something.
like-
He's like the only
right.
character where you can't make a change decision
Wow.
to save his life.
Like you could,
to
like,
our knowledge.
literally like keep him home at the beginning of the video.
Right.
Safe.
Yeah.
Still,
He just it
Like
was-
there's a lesson there.
Someone still
he
gets
should
him
not
somehow.
be in the woods
Right.
in like Maine with the white people.
Right,
That was
right.
the whole thing. But it was like he because Jeff did it differently. Like we tried to save him. We were like, screw his girlfriend.
His
We
girlfriend's
hate
so
her. She's
annoying.
just super annoying. But and then Jeff did it differently too, like trying to save this kid, and it just didn't work. And
Right.
it says it's advertised that you can save them all, but I don't believe it. Then the last thing I could remember, because again this is 15,
Okay.
and I have
Congratulations.
1, 2, 3,
Very nice.
thanks. I have 4 like
Okay.
movies
4. All
that
right.
we've watched or
have any
things.
One that's black.
Because I'm like, no, like Friday the 13th, nothing. So the other one was M. Night. We had an episode of M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
you have Unbreakable. You have Samuel L. Jackson.
yes, Mr. Glass.
But he's the villain.
yes.
Yes.
So, you know,
Spoilers. yes.
Spoiler.
It's literally
It
the
is
last
the
scene that he's
biggest twist.
introduced as the villain.
They
Very
called me Mr. Glass.
So another trope that's addressed in horror film and in just black film is the mythical Negro trope.
Yes.
And specifically, we're intending to do a Stephen King episode, so I want to talk about The
Say that.
Shining.
You just talked about Stephen King, yeah.
Yeah, so you got one, like with Stephen King, he has The Shine, which is addressed in The Shining, but it's also in the kids in It. And it comes up in a few other things like Carrie,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
obviously has
Yeah.
the light. So you have Scatman
Crothers.
who is the only black man in this film. He's the first to die and one of only 2 characters that die in that film.
Yeah.
And he's like has this telepathic connection to this kid that he just met,
Yeah.
who he comes to save, and then the kid can't even be like, "Hey, beep 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 beep," just so
Right,
you know,
right, right.
my dad's killing people, beep 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 beep. You know, like, and that's kind of like a trope that comes in is like if they are in this horror film, like what is this character?
Right.
Like, are they just a villain like Samuel L. Jackson's character? Are they just something that gets like comedic relief
Right.
passed to the side? Are they that mythical Negro that helps
Just
the
sort of
white
magical.
protagonist?
Yeah.
So you have these like different kind of tropes in horror films.
You could just turn this off and listen to the music. You'd be kind of like moving.
Yeah, you're just like, and then you always walk kind of like this with your big bell bob
you have to.
and your hair.
Well, clearly it's not him.
He's not-
black like we are.
He's not a big white guy. It scares me. See, every time he's Mr. Hyde.
I like the fact that you button his...
You button his shirt up.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
I have a lot of questions.
Like where?
We watched quite a few. You guys have talked about like Blackula
Yes.
and Scream, Blackula Scream.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
So we have the and then so that's for the Blaxploitation movement.
Yes.
Yes.
Big time.
Very
Big time
much
when
so.
they just like they had the hit with Blackula, which actually in the text is an interesting movie.
It really is.
It really is an interesting movie. It goes quickly left.
Yes.
It goes quickly off the rails. But in the text of it, it's very interesting because it's not a typical vampire film,
Yeah.
but then they just went cheap, which is what they did back
Yeah.
then. You know?
Exactly.
And then they just
Exactly.
cheapened out even more with Scream, Blackula, Scream, because then it just became the tropes of, oh, let's make every black. Let's make Blackenstein.
Right,
Let's
right,
make
right.
the Dr. Black, Mr. Hyde.
Right.
Let's
Put black in the title.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
And kind of go for it.
yeah, you know, the black, the bad, and the ugly, or whatever. And like
Right.
they threw black into everything, but and then they would just surface level throw on, you know, the tropes of the time. So you'd have the black pimp, and that's the other thing, because when they would do it, it would always be the stereotype. It'd be the black pimp, the hooker, the you know. They'd be in the streets with the brothers,
Right,
with
right.
the
Drug
jive
dealers
cookies
and-
you know,
yeah.
all that stuff, you know. And nobody was ever like, you know, just middle class
Or just regular.
or just regular,
right.
you know,
Like
just
like a mailman.
right, exactly.
Like there were no black mailmen in these movies.
Any of those
Right.
films,
It's
man.
like the extreme at either end.
Right, right. Like I'm an accountant. I teach second grade. No, you're pimps or
They
Yeah.
know
Drug
you.
dealers.
Which we called it out in Blackula, thus made it hard for you to really tell which one was the vampire,
Right,
Because
right.
they were all walking
They're-
around in capes.
right. Looking like everyone just looked ridiculous.
Everybody's walking around with capes and a perm, so you don't know which one is the vampire until they stick their teeth in you.
Well, and it was like those films are kind of like, it's funny because we still have these issues of black characters in film, because when you think about the Blaxploitation movement, it was like, now we can finally have black protagonists and they're the heroes and they're no longer like the fodder, and we're not just
Yeah.
using their
Yeah.
culture
Yeah.
to like make a joke, but then it's like, but it's okay because we made it.
Of course,
Right,
You know?
right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Unfortunately, that was one of the things about the Blaxploitation movement in period, not even just in horror, is that for every film that you got that was interesting in some way, such
Right.
as Blackula in its text, or even Ganja and Hess,
Right, I was gonna
which
say
is
Ganja and
like
Hess, yeah.
which is really interesting because
Yeah.
it's all about the atmosphere. It's all about the the mood and trying to do something different.
Yeah.
With the whole vampire theme.
It's like class issues, gender issues. Like just this really interesting film.
Yeah, and as poorly made as it is, you still see the attempt in the film work, in some of the staging of the things that they were doing in that film. But for every film that you have like that, you've got 4 or 5 that are
Yes.
just dumbed down.
They just churn them out.
Just churn them out.
Yeah.
Whether it be horror films, whether it be the big bad, you're going to take out the man movies,
Right.
whether or not you try to find another Pam Grier to walk in her, to take her place. It just gets really dumbed down from there. And it really is, it's a shame because in those films you have so many, you got a whole lot of people that got no business being in front of the camera or behind the camera. You do.
I was about to say, or behind. You said behind the camera.
Yes, I
too,
did,
yeah.
definitely behind. But you have more than a few people who you could tell have so much more to offer. I think about primarily somebody like Pam Grier,
Yeah.
who you can tell she's just waiting for somebody to give her a script of note. Now she's got bills to pay, so she's going to do what she got to do. She's going to do these movies and make it happen. She's going to do Coffee. Going to do Coffee 2. She's going to do Black Mama, whatever. But she's just waiting for somebody to give her a script.
Or William Marshall, who actually played Blackula.
Yeah,
Who's actually this great actor,
classically trained
stuck
actor
in this thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and tried to give it some type of pathos to his portrayal of this character, and you can see him really trying to do it in Blackula, and then just being forced to do the cash grab of Scream, Blackula, Scream.
I wanted to see what you guys, if you have a favorite black horror film or a character or something that's like kind of stood out that you were like, wow, this is done really well. And I know, like Get Out is definitely like a good cop out for that.
Right,
it
of
certainly
course,
is.
of course.
phenomenal in so many ways, and definitely is going to have its own episode dedicated to it. You guys did an episode, the live show,
Yeah,
which is just it's such a phenomenal film. And just even Jordan Peele, some of his skits from Key and Peele were great.
Yeah, the Halloween episodes of Key and Peele would get
legit. Like you had like the my favorite's when they're pretending like they're not afraid.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, what's stupid? Like he's in the gutter and blah blah blah, and then like jump into his arms. And they're like, yeah, that's dumb. And he gets in his car and they're like, yeah, maybe we should walk.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So,
do you have a favorite black horror film, Vince?
I do, and it's my favorite because it's actually the scariest, and I've gone 2 successful years without doing it, but I think this October we're going to have to actually tackle Candyman.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I think we're actually going to have to tackle it.
Yeah, Candyman is
that's twice now. That's now the last time we're going to say it. We'll now refer to it as that film.
Yes, you're saying it far too many times.
I think it is an amazing film. Like just the mythology, just the storyline. Tony Todd is amazing in the role.
He is.
So it's like my favorite black horror movie that I do not watch. Because it legitimately frightens me. So.
Yeah.
So you were frightened when you saw it the first time?
I told you, like, I went with a friend of mine, and she actually said Candyman in my rearview mirror 3 times when I dropped her off and jumped out the car.
That's rude.
I almost crashed my car on the way home.
Wow.
Like, I honestly, like, it scared the shit out of me.
Wow. I'm trying to think. I guess if I had to say a favorite black horror film, it probably would be Candyman, because Candyman it didn't scare me, but it made me uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I'll say that, and it made me uncomfortable because it played off of my tropes of not like this big bad boogeyman or anything like that, but going into the projects.
Right. All of that. Yeah. But like, that's real.
Like for me,
that is real.
Like, yo, I don't ever want to go into the project. Like I never wanted to go into the project because I ain't like the whole idea of like walking into the towers and walking all up to the top.
If you don't live in the projects and you have to go into the projects, which is something that I think a lot of black people have had. Like, you know, I never lived in the projects, but you knew people.
Yes.
You had relatives and you had to go. And it really was like entering into this dark, forbidden place.
Yeah, where you did not feel welcome at all.
And like then,
these were not your blacks.
It's like the folklore part of it. And then it's like fucking bees. Like, I remember sitting in the movies like, really? Really, now it's fucking bees?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, this is some bullshit right here.
It is.
So,
and it was so effective because like the year that it came out, like we're old enough to remember the year that it came out.
Yeah.
You could not go anywhere. Everybody was just scaring you with like Candyman. Yo, man.
Because the other thing is, it's a variation of Bloody Mary.
It is.
Which everybody did. So it really was this could actually be true.
Especially because, like you say, it was the whole mythology of it.
Right.
That made kind of sense because it played off of, like, you know, it was like historical fiction.
Yeah.
You know,
it was urban legends.
Right. Urban legends. And
doesn't he have the hook?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's an urban legend.
Yeah.
So it was like all like part pieces of stuff that you heard,
right,
you know, passed down.
Right. So exactly.
You
like
you
already had those levers.
Cabrini Greens, like, are they, you know, Cabrini Greens, like, yeah, there really is a Cabrini. Get the fuck out. What? No, sir. Yeah, fuck you, man.
It's funny, Candyman, because my best friend growing up is terrified of horror films. Okay. And he's like this tall, just like big, jolly black guy. And it was always that he was always afraid of the horror movies, and I love them. And we were next door neighbors. He lived behind me. And so I would always force him to watch a horror movie. And then I'd have to walk him home.
Right.
Wow.
And it was because of Candyman was like that first one he watched when he was younger. And so like every time he was like, it's just like Candyman, like this and this. And so that was what he would be afraid of when I'd have to like walk him through. There were times when like we were sitting next to each other on the couch and something scary would happen and he would just fly up and then end up in my arms.
Are you serious?
Like, and I'm just like, Matt, can you? It's fine. It's just on the TV. It's gonna be okay.
Right.
And he still watched it with me every time.
Right.
So I don't know how it worked. But yeah, that's the thing I think of when I think of Candyman, is just him and how traumatized he was. So I never even got around to watching it. Like, I just didn't.
Damn.
I was just like, oh, this sounds like not what I want to
I
see.
definitely think I did watch it in high school. I don't remember the context of it, but I definitely saw it. I feel like we should watch it.
Yes.
You should.
You
Yeah,
should.
we're gonna watch
You
it.
should.
I've never understood like people's openness with being like, yeah, let's say the thing 3 times that they told us not to say. It may or may not murder us. Like, I feel like if that's a possibility, you just don't touch it.
Just don't. Right.
You just leave it alone.
say something else.
I've never understood the
adventure.
curiosity
You need to know.
that stupid children.
Well, you want to take the power away from it.
Yeah,
That's
you
what
never
it
did
is.
Bloody
okay,
Mary.
that makes sense, but still, I just feel like if someone's telling me that's like that thing could kill you, like there's a tiny chance
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it
that
having the
murder
power.
will happen.
Like, you stay over there, I'm gonna stay
You
over
have
here.
that
Yeah.
power. I'm away from the power.
It's
Yeah.
like
Just
I
sort
don't
of-
check out the thing that fell if I see my cats are sitting next to me.
Right.
I just accept that has happened and try to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I mean,
when the
that-
basement sounds happened in our last episode, my inclination is not to go to see what's down there.
well, it's like, what was it, the Babacock?
Babadook.
Babadook.
The poppycock.
I mean, but that's what ends up happening.
Yes.
Right? You know,
Yeah.
they look. You stay there. I'm gonna stay here. We figured out how to coexist.
Cool,
Yes,
guys.
you're
Just
in the
let it-
basement.
let
I don't really go down there like that.
Yes.
We're up
your
here,
time.
and it's like, you know what? I can appreciate this.
It's a nice relationship.
Right,
to
right.
have
You know,
with your
look.
ghost.
Apparently we have to be together. So let's figure it out.
I just won't
Make
say
it
your
work.
name.
Right. I
more
won't
than
say
twice.
your name. You keep your
just hang
power.
out.
No Ouija boards.
No Ouija
No
boards.
haunted dolls.
Just look. Your thing, my thing.
The
Separate.
Babacock.
You knew what I was talking
It's
about.
appropriate.
That's
since
the
he's
new
he's
title.
The
It's
a new
working title.
Right.
Like
Google it.
mascot now,
Right,
so it works.
right.
Or that's the
Poppycock.
porn about it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly.
That's a rule.
I kind of want to know if that exists.
I was thinking of, because it's not really, I don't know if it, I guess it would be a black horror film in that the protagonist is a black kid, but People Under the Stairs. Have you guys seen that?
I've
I
not.
haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, I do remember.
So you have like the main kid, Poindexter, who like gets sucked into robbing this house because
Right.
of like his uncle or some strange man that he
Oh,
has to like
jeez.
abide. So they go to these white people's house
Of
to,
course.
to rob them, and it's like 5 seconds into them getting into this house, and of course the kid doesn't want to do it. He's a good kid. The guy he's with gets attacked by their dog. I think it's a Rottweiler because that was the dog with the stigma at the time.
Yeah.
And so he gets attacked by a dog, and he's like gone already. Like he's already dead. And then the kid is trapped in this house because they come, and it's this crazy. It's like, I think it's such a great black film in that it's the antagonist is just crazy white people.
Right.
And it's like they're religious, and so they have like a pack of their kids in the basement that they've like abused according to like hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. One of the kids
Jesus
doesn't have a
Christ.
tongue. He's
Oh
running through the
my
wall. His name is
God.
Roach. He's in the walls.
What is this movie? Oh my
It's a
god!
the people under the
Crazy.
stairs.
I remember when it came out.
It's
yeah.
such a crazy, and it's like
Alright, I need to see
I
it,
can't believe this
'cause
was
that's
made.
upsetting
It's
already.
one of my favorites, and it's you got the girls like trying to save him, and they have this like little like friendship, and then the parents like the husband's like his whole like leather get up.
Yeah.
Like their BDSM like attire, and they're
remember
going and
that.
abusing all their kids, and they're super religious. But it's like you're following this kid who's like liberating these children, and I was just like, this is like if I was gonna say probably my favorite would be that one because I've seen it so many times, and I always am just like, this is the most preposterous synopsis. Like someone straight up went in and I was like, okay, so what if?
Let me see.
Follow me now.
Hear me out.
So this little kid, his name is Poindexter. You're with me? Cool. He gets in his house.
Full name.
Crazy white people, they're religious. They're cutting out tongues. They're blinding their children. They're in the one's in the walls. By the way, he makes crazy screeching noises as he
Like the
runs
cat who
through.
sees birds.
And then and the husband's
You got a
always
picture.
just
All
like,
you hear
"Help."
him. It's in the
And then
walls.
he's like, "Oh, motherfucker!" And you just hear like, "Ah!" It's like, there's Roach again. It's just, and that's the whole film. It's just this absolute, and you're just so terrified the entire time. You're like, please God, let this little boy get out of here. Like, they already did this to their own.
You robbed the wrong house.
You know? Such a, I definitely say that's up there.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right.
Even though the film that we just watched, The Girl with All the Gifts.
Yeah.
That's a very good, underrated film that fits, I guess, in the zombie
It's
genre.
a zombie movie.
But it's very liberating.
Yeah.
When you look at it from the point of view that the protagonist, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to watch the film. Is a young black girl.
Yes. With all the gifts.
She is that girl.
She's got yes,
Who is
and
that girl?
she is fighting for her freedom.
Yes.
Let's put it that way in this film. And you, interestingly enough, offered on the show that it would make an interesting double bill.
That's right.
With A Wrinkle in Time,
Mm.
in how it speaks to black girls.
Yeah.
Both of those films.
That you can also be the protagonist. You're the
Yes.
hero.
Yeah.
You have the gifts.
Yes.
And the time traveling. I don't really know how A Wrinkle in Time works.
It's something like
Says something like this.
You're actually on the right path.
You are.
Yeah.
Or is it? Because is it a different path?
I see what you did there.
You see? Yeah, I'm here. I got it. I'm paying attention.
She's got a podcast.
Yes.
I'm important.
I like the fact that there's it's official Mr. Hyde. And then he gets into the Hyde-mobile. Which is his... Oh!
So we watched, you invited us to watch a film that we would not have watched without you guys, so thank you. It's and I am so glad we did. I
got to watch it twice.
Yeah, we
All
thoroughly
right.
enjoyed ourselves.
Dr. Black and
Mr. Hyde.
Mr.
Yeah.
Hyde.
Yes.
Speaking of Blaxploitation films where they were just throwing stuff against the wall.
Makes no sense.
Seeing what would stick.
Yeah, man.
Because the name isn't even Dr. Black, it's Dr. Pride, which isn't any better.
But they had to have black in the title.
Mm-hmm.
Thus to let you know that this was a black film.
In Blackenstein, is his name Blackenstein?
Yes.
You know, I've never actually seen Blackenstein.
Nobody has. Like if you go on like Amazon Prime, because it is on Amazon Prime, it literally is just a box that says Blackenstein. It's not even like the
They
movie
even give it a
poster.
movie
Right.
It's not even the most movie poster.
They're like, it's a thing that happened, maybe.
Just figure out how to put
You get the
black
idea.
in it.
Just look
like
at
they
the
were going to
title.
call it Frankenblack. But that didn't have the same flow.
Because black was at the end.
Right.
In case the movie got shortened.
Right. So just put black in it.
I don't even think it, like black fits in the little box there. I think it's
Right.
like Black and Steve.
Yeah. That's terrible. So now we have to watch that.
Interesting thing about this movie is that the production of it feels like a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, like it comes on with the credits feel like a fucking Aaron Spelling production.
Right.
It's got like funky music.
Yeah.
Like straight out of Starsky and Hutch or Adam
Yes.
12, or maybe even a touch of Quincy Jones, Sanford. It's got bit players from Sanford and Son in there, Vince, as you pointed out all throughout the film.
That's right. It's one of my mutant powers.
And it actually has, unlike a lot of the black horror films, William Marshall notwithstanding, it actually has relatively good names attached to this film in Bernie Casey and Rosalind Cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also think that this movie may be a window as to why Bernie Casey's film career did not amount to much.
He's no Fred Williamson.
I don't know. I think he did a wonderful job. I don't know. I can't picture that character any other way.
Right.
I really can't.
Bernie Casey is Dr. Black.
Yeah. He's Mr. Hyde.
And Mr. Hyde
He's
as well.
He's a versatile actor. I will say this about the film, that my biggest takeaway was that it is not subtle in the least.
No.
Not like
It
there's.
wasn't trying to be. I don't think.
Yeah, you could not be just like a backseat watcher. To this. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just gonna watch like a film. It's gonna be like kind of scary. Like as soon as you sit down, you're like, oh, oh, we're talking.
Oh, this is where we are.
Like even just you can't even get past just reading the synopsis where it's like a prolific black doctor like takes the serum, turns into a white man, and then kills hookers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Literally the
And you're like,
description of the movie.
oh, that's what this film is. Like you're just like, all right, just saddle up. Let's get
Right.
Here we
go.
Yeah, there's
Let's
just
go.
right out the gate. You're like introduced to him. He's like this nice doctor, but as soon as he's there, you got Linda, one tits out first. So you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Here
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
Here
Yes.
we are.
Yeah.
Well, that's
It's a titular piece.
It's the 70s. Titties.
Yeah,
It's
freedom.
And plus, Bernie Casey, I mean, he's not subtle with it either, because like he walks into the room and immediately has like the Hamburglar smile on his face. Like,
Right.
Oh, tits.
You know, the funny thing is, there's a good chance they didn't tell Bernie Casey, the actor, that she wasn't going to have a shirt on.
That's true.
Like, he just walked in and
You're just
actually
going to
saw-
walk in, and the patient's going to be in there, Bernie.
Right. It's like, all right. It's like, ooh, titties.
Oh.
Oh,
I like this movie.
Right.
And
Exactly.
then
I'm
you
about
hear,
this.
you hear the
Let's
music,
go.
and he's like, "Did I sign up for a porn?
Right.
Exactly.
When does
But,
she
like,
ask me to
The
check
music
her
that's
pipes?"
porn music is only when he's murdered people. It's like really cheerful, like oh, da, 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 da. I have thrown you.
I wonder if
across
that's
the entire
because
room.
he's not
You're dead
just
now.
murdering people; he is literally grabbing them off the streets.
Yeah.
And then and then fucking
Mine.
javelin throwing them.
It's like on National Geographic. Have you ever seen like
Grab him
those
by the
trap
crotch or
door
the shoulder.
spiders
Yeah.
that pop out and grab?
Oh no!
Then like Richard Attenborough says, "Let's watch it and half speed," and you see it pop out.
Yeah.
And then like that's Bernie Casey. He's like a trapdoor spider from a Richard Attenborough documentary on BBC America.
Yeah, he's very and he's a walking special effects because he's like 7'12",
He's a big goony
Yes.
bird dude.
about 300 chiseled pounds.
Yeah.
You know, and he's a doctor.
And yes.
Get the fuck out of here.
Well, you know, after his time in the NFL.
Yeah, he
went
was
to
a
medical
football
school.
player. Yeah.
And then he literally
I learned karate.
he learned karate.
And learn karate.
Mr.
Batman.
Hyde is he's
straight leg.
doing hey!
I learned just
Judo
karate
chop.
chopped people.
He's karate chop people.
Shoulders.
Yeah, oh
He's doing like self-defense throws of people over his shoulder.
Oh yeah.
This joint is insane. This movie is insane. And Mr. Hyde has Mr. Hyde gear. Like he
Yes.
would change,
He had a
Special
special
Mr.
outfit.
Hyde outfit.
you know, his blue
He tore
windbreaker.
stripes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
It tried so hard. Like I was just trying to. The whole time I was just like, is William Creighton like serious? Like I can't, like, because he takes everything very seriously in this film. Like even like you know you
Yeah,
get
oh, yeah.
Dr. Pride's like backstory and that really stressful
Like,
car
emotional
ride. Yeah,
moment,
and he's
yeah.
like crying, and you're like, oh well, he's justified in murdering prostitutes because his mom had a bad liver somehow.
And was a prostitute maid.
Yeah, it's just yes. And so it's the prostitute's fault.
Yes.
Like they're not
And her
afraid of
liver was
people
bad,
banging
and
on
she
their
drank
doors
a lot. It's like things that he said. That was like in the description. He's like, yeah, she drank a lot.
because she was
And
sad
then her
and
liver was
lonely.
bad, and then she died, and then no one helped. Where it's like,
So now I have
what
to
would
kill
they have
them all.
done
In her
if you did
defense, if
help?
your job was cleaning up semen-soaked sheets,
Mm-hmm.
you might indulge in as well. Because no matter how much they're paying you to clean those sheets,
It ain't enough.
it's not enough. So here, have some hooch.
Oh my god, this movie was. But as insane as it was, I can't say it wasn't bad. It's
Right,
bad.
right. It was entertaining.
It's entertaining.
It's
Oh yeah,
entertaining. Yeah,
it
you
was
know.
worth it.
It's one of the movies that's so bad that it's still fun.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
You know what I
Yes.
mean?
I enjoyed watching it twice.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than I ever would have thought I've watched that movie. I figured
Yeah,
once
yeah.
would probably be the number that
Right,
I would
right.
stick with.
But now
I
the
got-
number is 2.
And I
Yes.
enjoyed it the second time. I still thought it was fun.
Yeah.
It was really entertaining.
Yeah, because it turns into King Kong at the end.
And then it
Yes.
turns into King Kong.
Which is like this whole time, like I was just grappling with like, and I guess that, again this comes back to the Blaxploitation movement. Is like, what are you trying to say? Because you started out where Linda's like, oh, you're too white. Like,
Right.
the only time you ever see black people is when you're here in the clinic. You have your white car, you're like a fancy man, et cetera, et cetera. He turns into a white man that's killing hookers, which is a thing that some white men have done in the past.
Right.
True.
And then you have this ending, and he's just reduced to an animal, to a gorilla. He's like making these animal noises, screeching, and then he crawls up to it's yes,
And he climbs a giant building.
He's literally King Kong.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what are you trying to say? How am I supposed to feel after? What have I learned?
Right.
And what I learned is, like, I don't even know.
You've not learned.
I
anything.
haven't.
Better leave them
I've
drugs
just been
alone.
here.
Don't put
Silky.
mysterious serums that made rats murder each other and then that old lady die after trying to choke someone. It's like, let's put that in.
Unethical.
Why was that even the thing, though? Like, why did he think, like, that's a great idea?
Yeah.
I'm going to take this.
There was
This is
no
great.
reason.
Yeah.
I need to do this now.
That's like, let's go back
Time
to the
is of
drawing
the
board.
essence.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
But he was like, no, it's definitely ready to go for the next client.
Like, literally, right at the first part, he's just like, he gives it to the rat. The rat murders all the other rats. And he's just like, oh, you had so much fun there, didn't you, murdering things. Takes them out. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's put this in people. That's going to go great.
This lady's going to die
This
anyway.
clearly does good things.
Yeah.
He gives it to the old lady. The old lady chokes the nurse and then instantly dies.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, I need to just put that in my body because clearly
he
this is
needed
going
a
great.
live subject because she was obviously
on her way out.
on her way out. So he needed a live subject, but he knew that he would not be able to, get anybody. So he used himself. So in that,
Well,
You
he's
gotta
at least
give him props.
perfected a little bit more. Like,
As a horror podcast, you all will appreciate this. The first horror movie that I ever saw where I actually liberated myself from wanting people to live, and I said, oh, well, you people deserve whatever happens to you from this point forward, was Pet Sematary.
yeah.
Like, they buried the dog came back all evil and weird and zombie.
They're like, let's put babies there.
Then he said, let's bury the kid there. And I said, you know what?
And then he buried the wife.
And then he buried the wife there.
Like,
This
it just
has gone
never,
so
he
well.
never
It's
learned.
like, you know what? Everyone deserves exactly what they get.
Yes.
So you know what? You inject the rat turns white, murders all the other rats. Now you're going to inject people with it? All right, let me just sit back and enjoy the show.
Yes.
Because
just
you're
once
an
you
idiot.
get your just dessert.
Exactly.
Okay, I feel you. And that's what you learned.
That's what I want.
That's
And
what you
then
learned
also,
from
like,
this
the unethicalness of the doctors who were like, oh, yeah, you're just infecting people with this thing against their will.
Right.
Yeah, no, he should.
I'm not going to, like, report you. It's fine. We're in love.
Well,
love you.
I mean,
That's our only line.
I mean, if you
Three.
if you look at this film, like, its whole commentary on black women in general is, like, real suspect. It's suspect, but unfortunately, it's a commentary on the times.
I was about to say.
and one of the unfortunate tropes of the Blaxploitation era, which is why the films of Pam Grier stood out so much. In
Right.
that she was empowered in her films, because all of the women are basically just ciphers or plot devices in almost every other film.
And it's a shame Rosalind Cash can get like an Essence Award for this. She's like, I wasn't a prostitute and I didn't get raped.
Yeah,
So yay me.
I was a doctor.
Right. So,
I think we did miss the opportunity that I was kind of waiting for. Was this whole Bride of Frankenstein option? Like with him injecting her. I was like kind of hoping he would, and I was like, and then there's two of them.
that was a real missed opportunity.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also, like, and then she could have fought him.
Right,
Like, I
right.
should just rewrite
She
this,
could have
I
had
think.
like a funky white afro with maybe a streak.
Well, I
Yes.
think that's what he was going for, was trying to
Right, trying to get
Trying to
old
make
girl.
her-
Yeah.
girlfriend
'cause he
in
loved
it.
her. 'Cause 'twas beauty that killed the beast. Exactly. Because he loved. I really enjoyed Linda, the character.
Mhm.
Like,
I did.
She, she
Yeah.
called it like it is. She like kicks Silky's ass. Like when he comes up, like, you're
Yeah.
mine. She's like, fuck you. No, I'm not. Like,
Right,
I'm my
right,
own.
right.
And she like even she's taking care of this other lady's kids. Like, she really got things together. I do wish she stuck up more for like her friends.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
even when she's
Yeah.
interrogated by the police, she's just like, I didn't really know. Like, they didn't really.
I didn't understand
care
how,
about
like,
them.
her legs just stopped working spontaneously at various times throughout the film, where she just like
running.
could not walk. Her leg just shook, and then she was on the ground.
Do you see those
But
platforms?
like nothing led up to
Yeah, I'm
that.
about
She
to
just
say,
suddenly
you
her
see those
legs were
platforms?
broken.
Yeah.
Platforms,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, if you fall down once from
I
them,
wasn't even looking at her shoes. She
you
was
know,
wearing
you
high
might
shoes.
she could have been suffering from vertigo.
Yeah,
I mean, she was really up
Very
there.
possible. I'm just saying. I just thought that was an interesting element to it, where just when anything stressful was happening, her legs just completely did not work.
The script said you trip.
Yeah, and she did.
She
Also-
took that real serious.
It didn't
was like,
seem
"You
like
think I
she
can
really
trip?"
had a good diet, so I thought maybe her blood sugar was low.
Yeah,
You get dizzy, like someone should, like you should have run up to her and like given her some orange slices.
You would think him being her doctor, you would know.
That's what I'm saying.
Like I know
That would
you're
have been a
deficient.
nice twist. Orange slices.
potassium.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know you
yeah.
have fatigue.
Yeah.
Use your
Hydrate.
iron supplements.
Right. Yeah.
Duh. I do.
Bend over.
That is also a different movie.
Oh no. Dr. Cock and
Right.
Mr. Hyde.
Yes, exactly. That was.
It's time for
We've
your
written the
injections.
porn.
There you go.
That's two porns
It's
today.
Dr. Black and
It's a record.
Mr. Babacock.
That's our record. 2 porns and 1 Ghouls Next Door episode. There's always some sexual innuendo.
Right,
Send
right.
us your
Typical.
fan fiction.
Right.
Yes. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I want comics.
I think this film would benefit from a name change in that I don't think that this is a black film that is the best portrayal of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because
No.
you read Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, it's this man who's like, okay, within you there's good and there's bad.
Yes,
I'm going to
yes.
siphon it into 2 different people and I'm going to fight that. And the best movie that does that as a black film is The Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
That's the best.
I agree, yeah.
That's the real Dr.
That's a
Jekyll and
good-
Mr.
yeah.
Hyde. It's him. He's like, I'm the jolly professor. And then he's got his bad ulterior. It's literally Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
This was not that.
No,
It wasn't that he made a bad version of himself. He made a completely different thing that was a
Yeah.
monster, this powdered ashen man that people totally accept as being a normal white man.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
scary looking.
Yeah.
Like-
They're like,
I
oh,
don't-
normal white man, get out of my black neighborhood.
he was
His eyes
purely
looked- he looked like he was the guy.
clearly the
Game of
talcum
Thrones.
powder man walking
Yes.
around
Yes.
the place. It was really upsetting. But nor is this the worst black Mr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll film, because the worst Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh.
Right on the nose.
I told you that I know Tony Todd. I
Right,
did
right.
a stage reading with him a few years ago, and we kind of like became like email buddies. And he was telling me, I think we were watching Candyman one day. I was introducing it to a friend, and he had said, I did this other film. It was edgy. I got to really show my chops. And it's like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, this is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I was like, oh, okay. Got it. Playing both sides. And then,
Right.
See what you do. Oh, God.
No.
Oh, God. I just had to call it like it is. Tony.
This is terrible.
This is some bullshit. This is shit. He is bad in this film. This movie is bad. You want to talk about slow and dumb and just over the top awful, and you want to talk about like coughing up like just red paint out of your mouth and calling it
favorite.
blood. It's really bad, and it's from 2000. Like, this movie is from 1975.
Right.
Maybe you give it a little bit of a pass.
2006.
2006. There is no excuse.
All right. We will not put that on the list.
Yeah, I mean, the things that I took from that film was, it's not subtle. I was angry because I was trying to figure it out the entire time, and there was ultimately nothing to figure out. It's just the worst. And the music, like how it was just that how chill and ambient it was when it was Dr. Pride, and it's sad and solemn because he's such a tragic character,
Yeah,
and they
tragic
really built
figure.
into him. And then as soon as like there's any suspense and it's Mr. Hyde, he's like,
Yeah, yeah.
Such
and all
a
of a sudden,
conflicting, and she's running like no. It's like
it turned into like Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Pole vaulting hookers across the street.
I know.
Then running over him with his. He ran the girl.
He did run the girl over.
After he like done tossed her like up.
Yes.
Just vaulted.
Yes.
Yes. He like
That way.
Undertakered her. Like,
So sick.
like tombstoned her. It was insane. Oh my god.
I just still love the first girl who he just like, as you said, the spider thing, just like snatches her, and like everyone's you kind of wonder if he didn't see it, and then he gets out, and then the rest of it.
Right, right,
And
right.
he's just like, nah, you're mine. Cool.
Now that and the crotch grab.
Yeah.
the crotch grab.
Crotch
was
grab.
That was the best
Yeah.
part of the entire movie.
like complete with the sorry with the black dynamite.
Right, right, right.
Scream.
Because he knows the karate.
Most definitely.
He does. Because
I-
you're already like, this whole thing is absurd. This
Yeah.
can't get any worse. This is like your first time seeing him beat people up, really. And then that happens. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can.
Then you got man versus car.
Man versus car.
Yeah. Then you have man versus dog.
I love that, like, the cop, the one black cop, like, says it. He's like, don't send dogs in there. He's just going to kill him.
Yes.
And then 2 minutes later,
Dogs.
kills him.
Let the dogs go.
Right, right.
I wish I saw more of them. I really loved their
they
chemistry.
They need
were,
their own
They were
spin-off, like,
good
show.
supporting character. Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
They would
did.
have been a great show.
They needed to be like the connecting tissue between all the Blaxploitation movies.
Right,
Oh my
right.
They should have been
God.
just like the cops on every, like, even if the next movie takes place in New York, they just like they got
Right,
transferred.
right. We thought we got away from all of this.
yes, yes. We're on vacation.
Right.
Yes. Oh my god. So they were like Blackula, like, this is just like back then when we had to deal with that vampire.
Right, right.
Exactly.
Be like, so you're telling me you can't believe that a black man turns into a white man at night and kills people? He's like, well, you know what? I don't know what I believe anymore.
I was about to say.
My whole life is altered.
Let me tell you about last summer.
Well, I don't. Do you guys have any lasting thoughts about Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde?
Run away. Stay away.
Yeah.
Don't watch this film.
Yeah. There are other films you could watch.
There are other films.
Watch Ganja and Hess.
Yes,
Yeah,
watch
see, I
Ganja
don't
Hedge,
watch
which
that.
we've learned is going to be like getting a re-release, I think.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
like
So
a-
if you're going to do 70s Black Monster,
You might
do
want-
Ganja and Hess.
It's a very interesting film.
Yes.
Go check that out. And watch the first Blackula.
The first Blackula.
Mhm.
You don't need to see anything else.
That's what we're
No.
yeah. So it's either going to be Bow Chicka Wow Wow
Mm-hmm.
or He Who Shall Not Be Named.
Yes.
Candyman. I said it once, so we're on a timer.
All right.
And so just on the general, the topic of black horror films, which do you feel?
I have to say, I'm sorry, I have to say Candyman.
Okay, that's two. So everyone.
I'm going to say Bow Chicka Wow Wow because I'm including Get Out in black horror films.
Is that enough to make up for all the dreck that came
It's
before?
really phenomenal.
I mean, between
I guess if it's
yeah.
Oscar nominated,
between
it does kinda-
between Get Out and the
I'll change my vote to Bow Chicka Wow.
Yeah, Bow Chicka Wow.
I'll
All
ride
right.
with that.
all right,
I'll ride with
Kat?
that.
I will also say Bow Chicka Wow.
yeah,
all right.
yeah. I
That and
enjoyed them.
Candyman probably make up for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because and you know, I say it's always an experience. It's never dull. You know, so
Yes,
that's like Bow
exactly.
Chicka Wow Wow. I'm not like, because there are like, you have certain genres of horror where you're just like, I just can't. with
Right,
this.
right.
Whereas this, it's like there's always something,
Mhm.
no matter
At
what.
least
Right.
entertainment value or
Absolutely.
a story or like something of
Yeah,
substance.
you go away thinking about it for at least a few minutes.
Right.
So that's good.
Fair
Either
enough.
good or bad.
Right.
And then for the film itself, how are you guys?
Oh, it's Candyman.
Yeah, it's a Candyman.
so
I'll do the
funny,
second
though.
one.
Was it funny or was it funny watching it with us?
There are just some parts that were just like, it's like a serious film. Oh my god, no. But
Yeah.
like, in terms of like comedic value,
Right.
I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Okay,
what is
oh.
happening here?
I guess fairness could be said that there's some black horror films that are just bad.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some black horror films that in the right context, with the
Right.
right setting or the
Right.
right inebriation,
Right.
could be fun. And this is probably one of them.
Have not been able to stop talking about this film.
Yeah.
I keep finding little things every time I
reference
think about
to
it.
People who don't know.
I'm just like, And then there was this thing.
Right,
And
right.
One more thing.
You won't even believe what I tell you.
Right.
That someone made this film.
It's a
and that
story.
everything I say is real. It's so preposterous. I really
It's
much
when you
enjoyed
make
it, yeah.
bad decisions for the story. That's what that was.
And it tried so hard. Well, thank you guys so much.
Oh,
Thank
our
you for
pleasure.
having
Thank you for
us.
having us.
This
We've
was
Yeah.
learned
fun.
so much. It was so really like it's fun.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you for
Yeah.
having us.
Yes,
This was
absolutely.
fun.
What's fun?
Yeah, it
This
really
was enjoyable. This was a great
Good
time.
Right, but yeah, so that was episode 15, our black horror films. So don't get married.
Well, your kids.
Okay, bye.
Why do they care so much? Like, if he's just shooting.
He has several
It's
gunshots.
LAPD.
He's murdered a bunch of people.
Who's ever heard of the LAPD just randomly shooting black guys?
He's white.
That's why
Oh, well, there you go. There's a commentary. There's a commentary. They're going to take him in alive.